Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another SAFC Fans React Friday. I'm your host this evening, Ben. With me, I've got three very intelligent lads to talk through a lot of stuff this evening. So, Johnny, how are you, mate? You well?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Plodding along.
Yeah, I think we all are, aren't we? Dom, nice to meet you, mate. Welcome to the channel.
Nice to meet you.
How have
Thank
you
you
been,
very
mate?
much.
Okay?
I've been all right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, nice one. And Alex, good to have you back,
Hi,
mate. How
bye.
are you doing?
Yeah, long week. Happy to see the back of it, to be honest. But no, happy
Yeah.
to be joining you lads tonight.
I know we've got a bit to talk about tonight, so we'll not throw any punches. We'll get straight into it. So obviously 2 matches since we last was chatting. The 0-0 with Charlton. Dom, I'll come to you first, mate. What did you make of that 0-0 draw?
To be honest, I thought we played well. I went down. It was nice to see Broadhead back. It was nice to see 09 training. Yeah, I know he wasn't in the squad or anything, but it was nice to know that he was back in it. Unfortunately, the injury to Pritchard later on, it was a case of we were looking strong, and that is going to be a massive blow. Hopefully, he's not out for too long. Charlton did play very physically. I thought they were throwing in tackles left, right, and centre. But I think on another day, we would have even gone into half-time at least 2-0 up. We played exceptionally well. It's just one of them things where we just couldn't finish any of our chances.
Yeah, I think it's agree. I think sort of first half, what I saw, we seemed to play really well, and then second half, it just sort of dived off a bit. I mean, Johnny, 0-0, 2 points dropped, or a credible draw and a clean sheet away from home?
I think to be fair, it's one of them results where you can say either, really, can't you? Anyone can take either position and defend it. Personally, I mean, it's nice to see the performance, but we are at that stage of the season where the points are absolutely paramount. I know they're always important, but we really need to be getting ourselves on a good run going into the playoffs if we are to, finish in the top 6. You'll take a point away from home, and you'll take a clean sheet, definitely. So I'm definitely not disappointed. But when you do perform well, you need to take your chances. That's what gets you promoted, no matter what league you're in. When you're on top, you really need to make it count. But overall, I'd say if you'd offered us a 0-0 before the game, I'd have begrudgingly shook your hand.
Yeah, I'll probably have to agree with that. Alex, what do you think? Are you happy with the draw? Think the amount we dominated the game, we deserved the 3 points?
Yeah, I think over the course of 90 minutes, I think we played really well. I think, well, quite literally, all that was missing was a goal. I think Ross Stewart had 3 really good chances, and on another day, he'd have probably had a hat-trick. I think if you look at it from kind of a wider perspective, in terms of the Wigan game, I think if those results had been in reverse, as in a 0-0 draw away at Wigan, followed up by a 3-0 win at Charlton, would have all been happy with them, with those results. So I think, it could have been a lot worse. I mean, away at Charlton, who over the years have been a bit of a bogey team for ourselves, like Johnny said, I'd have probably took a point before the game as well. Yeah,
certainly. I mean, Charlton, we've never really done that well against them. You only need the playoff final to cement that. One of the worst matches I think I've ever seen and ever been a part of. But I mean, we had that draw on Saturday, bounce back against Fleetwood-ish. Dom, I'll come back to you, mate. I mean, 3-1 for 70 minutes. I have to think it was quite a poor game.
Yeah, I
and then
agree.
Luckily we just sort of, we did manage to find a way on Tuesday. So, I mean, what did you make of the game, mate?
Well, like you say, the first 70 minutes of the game, I thought we were absolutely poor. The back line looked a bit shaky, which is a bit different for Wright and Shamagley. They've played well very recently as a partnership, so to see them a bit rocky was a bit out of the blue. However, I think finally, when we made some substitutions, we finally got that little shift in gear that we needed to get on, score some goals. It was a great little play by 09 and Defoe for the second goal. I think Gooch actually coming on actually made a really positive impact onto the game. I think he really brought a little bit of fresh air into the team. But It was nice for Jack Clark to start as well, because I thought over the last few games where he come on as a sub, he looked very positive. So it was nice to see him start. I think last 15, if you only watched that, you wouldn't have thought that they were on top for the vast majority of the game.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, mate, I think, Luke O'Nien coming on, sort of, it looked like to me that it changed the game. I think he's been sort of a player that, he gets a lot of stick sometimes, certainly when he was playing before he went out injured. But that sort of burst of energy that he gave when he came back on just sort of really looked like something we'd been missing in midfield. What was your take on the game, Johnny?
Yeah, I totally agree about O'Nien. I've always been a big O'Nien fan. I think he offers us something that we don't really get from a lot of our other midfield players. I know he's played at fullback a lot of his time with us, but I think especially when him and Dan Neil played together in central midfield earlier this season, I thought they complemented each other really nicely. And I think we have missed him. He sort of goes under the radar a bit sometimes, but he offers a lot of, he gives us a lot of balance. He allows other players to do the thing because he's always there doing the dirty work. And like we're saying, he can pop up with a goal. So yeah, I thought he was a really good. It was really good to see him come back. Just the slight negative I would say is obviously we were under the pump for a lot of the game, and it was just such a silly way to concede a goal. It's so Sunderland that we if it wasn't for that, we could have come out and said, you know what, we were under pressure for a lot of the game. We've weathered it, defended it well, and then sucker punched them at the end. Great, happy days. But instead, you still got that blot on the copybook of a ridiculous goal to concede. Just, messing about with the back, wasting time, giving away silly possession where you don't need to. And, thankfully, it's not come back to bite us too badly in the end. We've took the points, but just we need to eliminate that. But other than that, kind of the inverse of the Charlton game, sometimes you don't play well and you need to take the points, and that's what we've done, and that's what will help us get over the line if we are to do it.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, mate. I think certainly in any league of football, you've got to win games ugly. Obviously, if you play well and win, that's a good thing, but you've got to just sort of grind out results. I mean, Alex, I think you've got to give a bit of props to Alex Neil. I don't know about you. He certainly, his substitutions sort of changed the game and sort of really brought us to life. What do you think, mate?
I think so. What I would say is, from my view, I think the Fleetwood game, from an offensive approach, the first 17 minutes, we seemed very limited. However, until Bailey Wright played their striker through one-on-one, I didn't feel as though we were I know they had a little half chance, but I felt as though we were in control of the game. Yes, not creating much, but I never felt as though Fleetwood were going to kind of put us under the press and create 5, 6, 7 chances in the first half. I feel as though we're in control, just limited. But yeah, like you say, it's refreshing to see that sort of pragmatic approach from Alex Neil, whereby he identified that something wasn't working and we were missing something, and he changed it, and it bear fruit in the end.
I think, would you say that if that was Lee Johnson, do you think he probably wouldn't have made them changes, or would have left it until maybe like the 85th minute when the game was just too out of reach?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes down to styles of play. I think Lee Johnson plays in a way that sort of is the complete other end of the spectrum to Alex Neil. Well, in fact, I feel as though the similarities in terms of the press. However, you can see that the difference in Alex Neil's approach, whereby he's clearly told the lads to get the ball forward as quick as possible, where Lee Johnson was kind of happy for us to have it in our own half until we've seen an opening. So no, I think either way, it's refreshing to have a manager that is kind of ruthless when he needs to be, and yeah, that pragmatic approach, it's good, and I think that's what's needed to get out of this league.
Absolutely spot on, mate. I couldn't agree more. I'm just going to quickly have a little browse in the live chat, see who we've got in this evening. We've got Acacia in there. Hi, Joanne as well. Hi, Joanne. Morgan, hope you're doing well, mate. I know you've been in hospital recently, so I hope you're on the mend. Matthew Lead in here. DJ Sizzler Watson. and that's anyone that's all commented anyway. So we'll sort of move on a little bit. I'm still going to kind of keep on the topic of Alex Neil. I mean, Dom, you know, we're unbeaten in 4 games at the minute. Do you think Neil's steadying the ship?
I think he is. If it's took the 4 games where we looked a bit ropes, the MK Dons, Wimbledon, whatever, if that's what it's taken for us to settle in and finally get back to winning ways, I'll take it. I think if that's what it's needed for him to adjust, find a playing style, find the players that he likes to use, then I'm happy, because the way we played against Wigan, even against Charlton, even though it wasn't a win, I think there was loads of positives to take. We did look very shaky on Tuesday night, but those last 15 was signs of what we can do as a team. We can play like that, and we can put teams to the sword when we want to. And I think Neil's done well coming in to a side which he said was very burnt out or inexperienced, and he's kind of testing the waters a little bit. No one really knows who he's going to start these days, so I like that about it. There's always like something new to expect in comparison to Johnson, where we could see that he did like his formula even if it didn't work sometimes. So I like the fact that Neil's honest and open about when we play when we don't play very well, and I just like that he knows what's going on. And I think if there is someone to get us out of this league, he's the man.
Yeah, I think it could be. I mean, it's one of them at the minute, isn't it? I think automatics are out the window. I think it probably is going to be the playoffs. I mean, but it's very tight. The league table, certainly, there's not a lot in it at the minute. I mean, Johnny, Alex Neil, what are you making sort of his impact so far? Do you think it's been good? Do you think it could have been better? Or what do you think?
I totally agree with what Dom said, to be honest. I think, you know, he's come in to a team that clearly bereft of confidence. He's, you know, sometimes you get the new manager bounce. We didn't quite get that, but, you know, if it's taken a couple of games from to just work out exactly where the strengths lie and what needs to be done to get us back on the promotion trail, then I'm happy with that. I also thought Alex made a good point earlier when he was talking about how, you know, he's a bit more pragmatic. He's happy to play direct at times. It's one of the things I used to like about Sam Allardyce when he was the manager. You know, it's all, don't get us wrong, I liked Lee Johnson's pretty football when it worked. That's great, but sometimes there is a time and a place for just, you know, getting the ball forward, getting players in the box and creating dangerous opportunities sort of, you know, just by brute force. And I thought, you know, I think it was Stewart's goal against Fleetwood. You know, Defoe kind of has a shot from the edge of the box and Stewart's following in and nips there ahead of the defender and taps it in the corner. I think it was Stewart anyway. And I thought that was a good sign. I want to see more of that going forward, where we've got players getting in behind, gambling on loose balls, the sort of thing that you didn't see quite as much under Johnson, I don't think. And again, like Dom said, the team selections, he's not afraid to drop players. He's not afraid to make changes. He's happy to start quite attacking, you know, front threes or fours or whatever you want to call it. Clark, like we've said before, getting, you know, full 90 minutes under his belt was nice to see. So the early signs are positive, but still a little way to go. Points to be played for, football to be played, matches to be won, and hopefully not too many lost. But happy so far. I'd say relatively confident it'll get us at least into the playoffs, but Sunderland in the playoffs is not a happy combination.
Well, it certainly hasn't been in the last couple of years, has it, Johnny? So, but, you know, we'll wait and see. But Alex, I mean, Neil coming in, he's sort of, you know, you see it with his post-match interviews and all of this. He's very sort of brute, straight to the point, unlike Johnson, who, you know, talks a good game for 5 minutes and, you know, makes it all very complicated. But what the problems were, and a young team, but very burnt out, you know. So what do you make of sort of Alex Neil's time so far? Do you think his man management skills are a lot better than Johnson?
I think the early signs are good. I mean, it was bittersweet really, because I mean, I was quite vocal that, you know, I was a fan of Johnson. I quite liked his analogies, although I agree that there was a time and a place. However, I just as much like Alex Neil's straight to the point, no shit talking really. I like how honest he is, and I think again that suits the division and the level we're at, more so than a Lee Johnson would. It's funny. I go along with my little brother to the matches, and I don't mean to go off topic, but I was saying to my brother, I actually think that Lee Johnson's style of play and Lee Johnson's philosophy would have suited us a lot more in the division above. I just think this league you kind of need nails. You need to, get the boots on and the hard hat and win the game how you can. Yeah, so I think Neil is a bit of a coup at League One level. To be honest, I'm surprised he took the job. And yeah, to be honest, that if the worst was to happen and we didn't go via the playoffs this season, I would be expecting personally another managerial change in the summer. And I think that is the contract that he was given, i.e. the rolling contract. I think that kind of gave leeway to both parties that if things didn't go to plan this season, then we could reassess, and perhaps Alex Neil might look to take on a championship job, and Sunderland might look elsewhere for a fresh start.
I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? I think it's just sort of, I mean, we had a bit of continuity with Johnson, but, to then go into the summer and have a new manager and a new way of playing and all of this sort of thing, I think it's just what I feel we need at the minute is just that bit of continuity and just someone that will just try and keep the ship steady, if you like. But obviously, Neil, like you say, he's a coup in League One, so it'll be difficult for us to hang on to him.
Can I just add then? Can I just add to that point that the first 3 games under Neil, I was a little bit concerned actually. As much as I like him and as much as I think he's a coup, on the other hand, I was a little bit concerned because Wimbledon, we didn't create much. Wigan, yes, we won 3-0, but it was a set piece and 2 penalties. MK Dons, we didn't create much. Yes, we scored 3 goals on Tuesday night. So hopefully that can be the start of the floodgates opening and we can be a lot more creative. However, the first few games were a little bit concerning, especially with the amount of creative players we've got in our team. It was concerning. But I imagine, thinking of it rationally, it was more a case of let's use those games to, stop the rot at the back. And, we only need one chance to win the game if we keep a clean sheet. So, yeah, I'm very, very happy with Neil and I hope he's here long term. However, nothing about the appointment, including the contract, seems long term to me. But that's just an opinion.
Yeah, no, I think, what you said before, I think you're absolutely spot on with Johnson's style of play would have probably suited us very well in the Championship. But, for League One, sometimes it's just like you say, get your hard hat on, get your boots on and just you go out there for a scrap. And we know that more than anyone, teams when they play against us, they just want to get in our heads, make it dirty, time wasting, all of that sort of shithousing sort of game style. Under Johnson, we just couldn't deal with it. And also, the physicality of the league, we know it. There's some big boys in this league, and we get lost sometimes against them more physical teams. But I'll go back to sort of what you were saying a little bit, Alex, but I'll ask Dom. So I think now with, 09 coming back from injury, Broadhead coming back, I think the midfield for us now is sort of really under debate. I'll ask the live chat this as well and think, Corey Evans has been getting a lot of stick recently for being the captain and also for putting in some pretty bad performances. So I do agree with the stick, I must admit. So, with 09 impressing on Tuesday, depending on what formation Alex Neil wants to play, if it's the 4-4-2 or even maybe a 4-3-3, Dom, who would you like to see in that midfield?
I agree with the Corey Evans thing, first and foremost. I think that he just isn't really doing it for myself and most fans at the moment. I don't know what it is. He just doesn't seem to be gelling. I think, like you say, depending on formation, say if he was to have 3 in the middle, personally, I would have Matete and Neil as like the 2 holding, and then maybe because he's so versatile, maybe he's have O'Nien right in the centre, because he does like to get forward. I know obviously he started as a right back for us, but I think the fact that he's starting to move more into midfield, I think that he is capable, or just any of those three. I'd say just a midfield of Matete, Neil and O'Nien would work in pretty much anywhere, especially with the loss of Pritchard. I think those are only three real sensible choices.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on, mate. I think that would probably be one of my sort of midfield sort of options. I mean, Johnny, I think Neil's got a bit of a headache at the minute. I think not just in midfield, but up front as well. But, you know, sort of touch on the midfield and, you know, a little bit up front as well. Who would you like to see, you know, in that midfield tomorrow at Crewe?
Well, at Crewe, I think we can afford to be a bit more, you know, adventurous. You can afford to, you know, maybe just drop a holding player, and you could go with a pairing of either Matete and O'Nien and Dan Neil, say, if you wanted to. And then you can bring another creative player in to that sort of front 3 or 4, which would, like Alex said, would struggle to create sometimes. That might remedy that a little bit. I think, in general, I think the options we've got lend, when everyone's fit, lend it quite nicely to Neil being able to sort of pick on a horses for courses sort of basis. You know, if we need to sit in a bit more, we've got a few options. We've got O'Nien, we've got Matete, who can kind of, you know, cover a bit of ground. We've got even Winchester, you know, when he's not being made to play right back, can do a decent job sitting in midfield, and he's all right on the ball, can put his foot on it. And then moving forward and up the pitch, I think Clark has to be in the team at the minute. He's clearly performing well. He's settled nicely into the side, I think. Obviously, he scored a fantastic goal against Fleetwood. So I'd be starting him no matter what. And then the rest of the positions, I think, again, it really very much depends. Does he want to try and get it wide? If he does, maybe you bring in Roberts or even Gooch. You know, I know he gets a lot of stick, but he is a very direct runner. You can play. You've got, obviously, Stewart will be in the team, and then you can play Broadhead and or Defoe off him if you want. If you want to be a bit narrower and focus, you know, just on getting it in the box, you could go with this almost 3 out-and-out strikers. When Pritchard is back fit, which I'm sure we'll touch on later, he can obviously drop in that number 10 role in behind the forwards. Embleton obviously is quite versatile and playing behind the striker. So I think we've got a lot of options, and like you say, it is quite a headache for Neil. What I would like to say is, as long as he settles on, at least on a per game basis, you know, are we going direct? Are we trying to build up? Are we trying to go wide? Whatever he decides, pick a team that suits us. Because too many times I feel like Sunderland managers over the years have picked players because they think, well, he should probably be in the team, but haven't really decided what role they want to play. And how many times have we seen square pegs in round holes, and, you know, just baffling decisions. So as long as he's consistent, I'm happy to say anybody playing really. But I think, yeah, we've got a lot of really good options once people are back fit, and that's without even mentioning Aidan McGeady. You know, none of us have said his name yet tonight, and he's a player that any club in League One would be over the moon to have. I know he's obviously getting on a bit, but he can change games, especially from the bench, fresh legs. So quietly optimistic, but prepared for all that to come crashing down.
Yeah, in typical Sunderland style, you know, it would just, you know, it could happen, but we're hoping not. I mean, Alex, you know, we're saying Neil's got a real selection dilemma. I think we've got so many sort of options in and around in the pitch in the minute. I mean, Crewe tomorrow, bottom of the league. It should be a 3 or 4-0 job. Do you want us to go and attack the game, or, you know, do you have a feeling Neil will start, you know, Evans and, you know, all of that sort of thing?
Well, in terms of Corey Evans, I'd mirror what the other lad said. I just don't see a leader in him. I mean, it's not as if he's not animated on the pitch. You don't see him pointing, you don't see him shouting, you don't see him sort of rallying up the boys, and he certainly doesn't lead by example, because he's quite poor and limited as a footballer. So I like the 4-2-3-1 off the ball, 4-3-3 on the ball offensively formation, and my 2 or 3 in the middle would be I'd have O'Nien and Matete as the 2, if you like, and then I'd have Elliot Embleton in that 10/8 role. I think that would work really well. I think Elliot Embleton for the flaws he does have, he seems to pop up with a goal. I mean, he did on Tuesday night. He did away at Doncaster. He's 2-footed as well, so it gives us that extra dimension. In terms of wingers, I think, well, Clark, yes, he's very good. I prefer him. I think in the latter stages of the game, we've seen where Clark really excels with that screamer he scored, with his turn of pace when legs are tiring. And then, of course, Lyndon Gooch, as I think it was Johnny that said, adds that sort of direct approach, and he'll run into the ground for you. So, yeah, I think Crew tomorrow, they're still fighting at the bottom of the league. As you say, it should be a comfortable win. We know with Sunderland that's not how the algorithm works. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we got turned over.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I would be either, Alex. It would just be, it's just one of them. I mean, shout out to Zoe in the live chat, just donated £4.49 FTM. We all know that means. Thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate that. That goes all towards the channel. So thank you.
Just want to say one thing, if you don't mind, Ben. Just on
go for me.
Just on Corey Evans. I never actually mentioned anything. Totally agree with the other lads. He's just weak. I think he's not very. He just does not seem cut out to be a captain of any club, let alone a club the size of Sunderland. And he reminds me a lot as a player of Liam Bridcut. I remember he came in and he was kind of lauded as this. Well, he sits in the midfield and he'll dictate the game and he'll do the dirty work. And, only the sophisticated football watchers will know what Liam Bridcut brings to the team, because he'll pass everyone else by. And then he just was rubbish and didn't do anything, didn't contribute going forward, and we still shipped loads of goals and looked like going down. And Corey Evans, to me, he's a nothing player. He's not quick, he's not strong, he's not great on the ball, he can't dribble, he's not fantastic defensively, and he's got no presence. I don't understand him, and I feel awful slagging him off so much, because I'm sure he's a lovely bloke, but he should be nowhere near our midfield.
I think you're absolutely spot on, mate. I think I'll sort of open this up to everyone, and then any guys in the live chat want to get involved, please do. I mean, he's our captain. You wouldn't really think it. I mean, if it was up to you fellas, who would your captains be? Dom, I'll start with you first, mate. Who would you want as our club captain?
To be honest, I would firstly make sure we don't do the past mistakes of giving it to a born and bred youngster, like when we gave it to Honeyman, when we had a born leader like Catamol in the squad, and then the pressure on him built, and then his performance has slumped. Personally, I know it's a lot of bias because he is my favourite player, but I would give it to 09. Like, there's just something about him. Like, he understands the club. He understands us as the fans. Almost every time he comes out on the pitch, he plays as if he knows what it's like to play for Sunderland, and he knows what it means to people like us. I think even earlier in the season when he was captain, I think those performances we played really well. If not, I would give it to a fit McGeady if he was there, because a wise head, he knows what it's like here, and he knows the squad well, and he knows he will show that natural leadership with his experience. But that's just me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, mate. I think you touched on Catamol there. I thought, ever since he left, we've not really replaced him in a certain sort of way. Certainly not on the field, but sort of maybe so with Matete now. He certainly, covers a lot of ground, but certainly that sort of leadership style. He was such a general on the field when he played. I mean, Johnny, I can see where Dom's coming from with 09 there. I would probably would be one of my tips. He certainly knows the crowd, the club, what it means to everyone. Would you agree with Dom, or would you say someone else?
I couldn't agree more with what Dom said. The guy clearly knows football. 09's his favourite player. He wants him to be the captain. I couldn't have put it better myself. I think, 09, he embodies what it is to be a Sunderland player. Like you said, Dom, every time he goes out on the pitch, he looks like he just gets it. you know, he would run through brick walls for this club. And I rate him as a footballer. I think he's a good player. I think he gets a lot of unfair stick from people because I think sometimes it's very easy to slag off the players who look like the grafters who can't actually play football. But I don't think he's one of them. Slight disagreement. I would say I would be tempted not to give the captaincy to McGeady just because there's always been rumblings of fallings out with players and, you know, just slight things under the surface. I'd be tempted to, you know, just stay clear of that. I think you could make a case for Defoe being given the captaincy on an on the field basis, you know, not to be the club captain, whatever that even means anymore.
Yeah.
You know, he's played for us before. The fans love him. He loves the club. He's clearly going to be respected by the dressing room. I mean, none of them have achieved half what he's achieved in football, and they never will. It's, you know, just a fact. I think he could definitely be someone for the players to look up to a bit, respect, and you know, to show a bit of leadership on the pitch. Ideally, I wouldn't have a striker as a captain. Like I would prefer O'Nien, but I think we don't have. Mentioned Catamol. He used to be also one of the first names on the team sheet under most managers, so it was quite an easy call to say, well, he'll be the captain because he's always playing, or you know, he's kind of one of the senior men. We don't quite have that sort of figure in the dressing room, so yeah, I'd be saying O'Nien or Defoe as a backup option.
Yeah, no, I have to absolutely agree with that. I mean, you touched on it a little bit there, Johnny, but you know, for me, your captain should be the first name on the team sheet, and it should be week in, week out. And you know, we had it with Ross, we had it, you know, a little bit with Johnson as well, just sort of switching and changing all the time. Alex, I mean, captain, are you kind of agreeing with what the lads are saying, or are you going to throw another wild card in?
I think it depends what a captain means to you personally.
Yeah, spot on, mate. So what does it mean to you? What does it mean to you, mate?
Well, when I think of Sunderland captains, I think of Lee Catamol, I think of Kevin Ball, I think of John O'Shea. Whereas Luke O'Nien has that professionalism, he trains really hard, he's always smiling, sort of that lead by example sort of element to captaincy. I think it would bear fruit. However, I also, on the flip side, can't see Luke O'Nien being the type of character that would be happy to grab somebody by the scruff of the neck and say, come on, you need to put in an extra 10%. Whereas in that squad, I don't think we have somebody like that. I think we lack that. It would have been nice if Aidan Flint had come through the door in January, because I believe he's of that character. I guess actually it just came to my head mentioning him. Danny Bart, I believe he was captain at Stoke, wasn't he? He's a big figure. You know, he's an experienced player. I think he captained Wolves right through from League One right into the Premier League, if I remember correctly. So perhaps him if he's on the pitch. But I think, of course, he isn't going to get enough minutes to have the armband week in, week out. If he was, I would have Jermaine Defoe as well. I think because of his experience, I imagine all the boys in the dressing room look up to him in terms of what he's achieved. He's played for Sunderland in the Premier League, so he knows what the club means to the city, to the fans. And I think Defoe will be a good case. However, I think Bailey Wright's an experienced captain. But I mean, don't we have about 7? I mean, at the start of the season, wasn't there about 150 captains announced?
Yeah, there were. Johnson, there was like the club captain, you know, on the pitch, and then a load of assistants, weren't there? I think McGeady was one, and a couple of others as well. So, you know, it's one of them things, isn't it? I mean, I think Zoe's just put there, you know, Bailey Wright should be captain if he continues to stay fit. I could agree with that. Thanks for the donation as well. And Joanne, $8.99 as well. Thank you very much. I think you've summed it very well, Alex. I think, you know, what does a captain mean to you? And you think, what does it mean to play for Sunderland? You know, like you say, Kevin Ball, Lee Catamol, you know, John O'Shea. You just want someone who's going to, you know, get stuck in, has got that little bit of aggression. I think I think anyone that you said, I think I would probably be happy with. I think there's certainly a few that I wouldn't. Corey Evans being one of them. No, I am surprised that Alex Neil didn't, maybe change his captain, because he obviously likes him to keep playing him. This is the thing. But when you watch him, you just wonder, what on earth is he offering this team? If he was, mouthing off, giving the players a lift on the pitch, keeping the momentum going, trying to boost confidence, I could see it. But he just doesn't seem to be doing anything. So anyway, that's my rant on Corey Evans there. I think.
I think you get the feeling, don't you, that no matter what happens this summer, we'll have a different captain.
Mm.
Same division, same manager, different manager. It ain't going to be Corey Evans again.
Well, I certainly hope not. I mean,
Grant Ledbetter was a perfect captain. Like,
yeah.
if you look actually, when Corey Evans was brought in, I remember Lee Johnson's quotes, not word for word, but I remember he said, like, Corey's come in to play that sort of sit in front of the back four role for us that Grant played, sort of tidy up, play the balls out wide. And there couldn't be more different. I mean, you've got Ledbetter, who, is a Sunderland boy, loves the club, and you could see, like, I remember watching him in the pre-match warm-up, even on the warm-ups, and like players just passing from cones, and the little warm-up exercises to do, he was like proper clapping his hands and like egging the boys on. And I mean, you look at Corey Evans and I kind of feel sorry for him. He carries the ball. When he does get on the ball, he carries the ball, and I have to kind of pinch myself, because I'm like, whoa, because he looks like he's buffering. He just doesn't. It's like he's got treacle in his boots. I just don't see a leader in him at all. And to be honest, we're Sunderland Football Club and we're in League One. We haven't really got a leader that, Bailey Wright, as I say, is a decent leader, but we haven't got one to the stature of the club. And I know that's difficult at the level we're at, but I just feel as though we lack a bit of grit and a bit of steel in the team.
I think it's probably something that we've been missing for a little while, mate. Certainly, obviously, Catmull wasn't the biggest of blokes, but you knew when you were in the midfield up against him, because he'd be right in there. He'd be giving you, getting into your early doors, and you think, right, this is my midfield, mate. You need to try and, play around me somehow. I mean, Carl in the live chat kind of summed it up quite well, saying that, where's it gone? Captain is someone that has pride in the shirt. I think that's spot on. James in there saying a captain is a player who sets the tone for the rest of the players. They lead and give the other players a talking to when their standards are slipping even 1%. I mean, I think that's absolutely bang on, James. And I haven't seen Corey Evans do any of that. And that's what you want the captain to do, isn't it? You want them to be, if anyone's lacking, they need to, that's what the captains are for, to captain their team, to be that vocal point and to get on the backs. That's what they're there for. But anyway, we could talk about Corey Evans all night, I think. So we'll just we'll try and put that one a little bit aside. We'll go on to sort of talk about sort of the next 4 games, really. I mean, we've got 3 of the next 4 are at home. Obviously, we have been a little bit shaky at home these past couple of weeks, but at the beginning of the season, we were really, really solid at home. I mean, we've got to make it a fortress, really, I think. So we've got Crewe, we've got Rotherham, we've got Lincoln away, and then Gillingham. With only Lincoln away, all the other 3 games are at home. Dom, how do you see these next 4 games going? And, how many points do you think we might be getting out of them?
Well, if you look at the next few games, we've got 2 teams in a relegation battle, the top of the league, another team in a relegation battle. Then you've got Oxford, who's a playoff rival. So it's going to be a hard running of games because everyone's got something to play for. And the teams who are in a relegation battle are going to say that we've slipped up recently and they're going to try and nick some points off us. And to be honest, Crewe, I think out of all of them, Touchwood should be the easiest of them all because they are rock bottom of the league and results have not been kind to them recently. I think it's one of them, even if the beginning of the season where we were doing relatively well, I would have said it was a game where we should be cruising. But obviously the most Sunderland thing to do is to go on welcome bottom of the league to the Stadium of Light, like we did with Doncaster, and let them just walk all over us. And I've got some stats here, if you don't mind, of more Sunderland things to do. We've never lost to Crewe in the times we've played them in League One.
Oh God!
They've only kept 4 clean sheets this season, and they haven't kept a clean sheet in 10. And they've only won twice this year. So the most Sunderland thing to do now is to take all them stats, throw them out the window, and let them just walk all over us. But we'll just have to say.
How many times have we won this year? I'm sure we've only won twice. 3.
Oh God! I was having such a nice week as well, lads. What are you doing?
I just had to bring you back down. I'm sorry.
I mean, do you know what? After the couple of months that we've had, I think, we know never to get too carried away. We thought we were high flying and with Johnson, and then look what happened. Manager of the month, December, and then shit hits the fan, and now look, we've got a different manager. It's typical Sunderland, like you say, Dom. It would be typical Sunderland to get beat 3-0 at Crewe. I mean, Johnny, a couple of big games in there. Obviously, 2 of the teams in the bottom 4. Lincoln, obviously Rotherham. We all know how the last time we met them went. How many points do you think we're going to be getting out of these 4 games?
Realistically, I think you need to be looking at trying to get 2 points a game, don't you? So you really need to be trying to either get 2 wins and 2 draws or pick up maximum points in 3 of them. Like Dom said, teams in relegation battles. On paper, you're like, great, near the bottom of the league, struggling, poor runs of form, bad runs against Sunderland. We know where that can end up. You would have to say, I think you said as well, Ben, I think it was you said, Crewe on paper should be the most winnable, easy game. If we don't take 3 points there, we've got to take a long, hard look at ourselves. Rotherham will do well to get a point. Take a point there, definitely. And then, like I said, we just need to look to try and win 2 or 3 of them and take a couple of points elsewhere. So I'd take 2 wins and a draw. I'd take 7 points in any combination of the fixtures. And then the Oxford game, which comes just after, I think is going to be pretty pivotal as well. If we can be, staying in touch with the teams around us after these 4 games, that's the game where we really need to be looking at that as a 6-pointer. Like we've all said, it's Sunderland and anything can happen. I'd be, based on the performances over the last few weeks, I'd be reasonably confident in us to pick up at least 7 points, which I would say would be a successful run there. And with Broadhead coming back and fingers crossed Pritchard out for not too long, it would be a decent little platform for us to start going at the end of the season. But
Is it just me or is Johnny frozen?
I thought so.
I didn't want to say anything
for me, but if it's just Johnny, that's fine. I mean, Alex, I'll come on to you, mate. I thought, because he always stays so still, I thought he was just sort of staying there, but nothing was coming out. But anyway, I mean, Alex, I'm looking at the league table now, and I'm seeing Sheffield Wednesday and Wickham 7th and 8th on 61, Plymouth on 62. We're on 63, Oxford on 65 and 4th. these sort of, 5 games really, and especially that game against Oxford's going to be probably, I mean, we say they're all big games coming up to the end of the season, but I feel like that one probably could be our season decider. I mean,
The Madrox derby.
It is, yeah, the Madrox derby, yeah. I mean, how do you see these next sort of 4 or 5 games going, mate?
I think
Realistically, because I know you're always very honest, like Gary.
I think, mate. I think maximum points. I think if we're honest about if we're serious about getting up through the playoffs this season, we've got to build that momentum going into the playoffs. I say maximum points, of course. If we picked up a draw here and there, but we really don't have much room for error. I think tomorrow's an interesting one because, touch wood, we should comfortably beat Crew. Not to jinx anything. And I believe MK Dons, do they play Wickham? They play somebody. It's like second versus third or something. Which is a big one for us to maybe further solidify a place in the playoffs. Yeah, I think maximum points. We've got very, very little room for error. And if we're serious, this is what's going to tell. I'm sure we'll sit here and what would it be, 8 weeks until the season finishes, end of April, and hopefully we've got a couple more games with we're in the playoffs. But we'll sit here and we'll look back and we'll think, well, we obviously didn't want it enough if it's not to be.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think, it is looking like the playoffs, I think, with the run of games that maybe some of the other teams got. I mean, we are playing, I think it's like 3 or 4 of the bottom 12 in our last 4 or 5 games. So you should think that we might be able to get, 12 or 15 points there. But Sunderland being Sunderland will end up with 6 and miss out on the playoffs. Yeah. So it is.
I'll just say as well, Rotherham. Well, their home game falls on when we play them at home. Sorry, that falls on the international weekend. And I had a look, and every single international weekend, Rotherham have called their game off. Right, so I'm clinging on to a little bit of hope that perhaps that one might not be on, and then by the time we come to play them, they may be already promoted. So then they've got nothing to play for, and then perhaps we could put that extra 10% in and pick up 3 points there. But clutching at straws, I think.
I mean, yeah, it could be, but I mean, them extra 2 points, could be absolutely huge, come the end of the season. I mean, in reality, it does look like playoffs. I mean, Dom, sort of as it stands at the minute, it's looking like MK Dons, Oxford and Plymouth. Obviously, that's all subject to change. You can put Wickham in there and Sheffield Wednesday, even Ipswich. Ipswich have been on a good run of form lately. Who would you like to play and who would you like to avoid in the playoffs? Because I think we all know that it's going to be that for this season.
To be honest, I wish Wigan were to burn out due to all the games in hand they have, because if they were to slip in the playoffs, I would heavily fancy our chances. But I think that's too far-fetched now. I think realistically, it is MK Dons, like you say. I think any of the teams who are currently in the running for playoffs could make it. I think it completely comes down to what other 3 teams have the best bottle, which includes us. I think Wednesday could easily climb themselves in there. I think Wickham can as well. Oxford, Plymouth, as you say. I think any of them, I think it's whoever is able to hold their nerves in the run-ins, because I was looking at some of the other ones. Plymouth have to play Portsmouth, Ipswich, Oxford, Wickham, us, Wigan, MK Dons and Bolton all left. So they have a ridiculous run-in. So if they manage to hold their nerve with them games, then fair play. I don't want to play. I don't want to play them, because if they manage to somehow get a kind of few points out of them, then they'll be dangerous. I think MK Dons, if we were to get them in the playoffs, I think we would have to take the game a couple of weeks ago and say this is what you don't do. We need to go completely differently, because they know how to beat us. Obviously, we're a lot different team since we played them at their place. If we were to get them, I would hope to get them in the semis, because if we got them in the final, we're basically just setting ourselves up for another heartbreak. And I don't think I can take that, to be honest. If I was to say any team that we have a good chance against, I would probably, depending on how we play them in the next few weeks, I'd say either Plymouth or maybe Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly probably it'd be a couple of my choices, to be honest, Dom. I mean, Alex, we're talking about, we're into the money end of the season now. We think about Johnson last season. We had an absolutely terrible last 9 or 10 games. You think with Ross, even Parky, missed out on the PPG and all of that.
Oh, he's back.
Oh, Johnny, you return.
Well, I hope that's not an omen for the weekend.
You know what? I thought, because your head stays so still already, I thought you were just thinking about what you were saying. So I was like, is he in, is he out? And then when you dropped out, I thought, oh, right, okay.
No, the laptop just did a big died on us completely, but we're back.
No, it's all right. Yeah, anyway, Alex, I mean, it's been typical Sunderland the last 2 or 3 seasons, this sort of slope off towards the end of the season. I mean, do you see this now as sort of a chance to really pick up a bit of form before the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it has to be. And like I said earlier, I think we've got to show character, and we've got to show that we want to get promoted, because in the end, it will show anyway. We have to show that that's what we're about. And that the lads believe in Alex Neil and believe that we can be successful this season. Yeah, I mean, the last few years in the playoffs, like you say, haven't been brilliant. But I think it's a lottery, isn't it? I think form goes out the window. I think when it comes to the playoffs, we need a little bit of luck on your side as well, I think. And yeah, being, most of the time a happy clapper, but if I put my realism cap on, I think from what the past has shown us, I wouldn't be too confident, to be honest, in the playoffs. And it's so frustrating, because the start of the year, sitting top of the tree, we all thought things were going to come out smelling of roses, and unfortunately, to come out smelling of bullshit. So, yeah, such is life.
Yeah, such is life. I mean, because it was all down to Sean, getting Lee Johnson sacked and all of that. It's all just gone downhill, and Sean's just popped up, so that's why that came into me. I hope you're having a good evening at work, Sean, mate. But yeah, I mean, Johnny, we're just talking about sort of the playoff run-in, sort of asking who do you want to play, who don't you want to play. What you sort of thinking? I mean, there's about 8 or 9 teams that could potentially be in that final 4 at the end of the season. Who do you want? Who do you don't want?
It's hard to say, really. I think, isn't it? Like you say, there's quite a lot of teams in the mix. Obviously, us being one of them. Hopefully, I don't think there's too many teams really where I'd look at them and think we can't beat you over 2 legs or in a playoff final. Man for man, I think we've got a squad that's up there with anyone in the league, as much as we haven't shown it on a consistent enough basis. Just in terms of, whoever finishes in what position in the playoffs, I'd almost rather play the team who finishes 3rd, because often that team's been there or thereabouts for the automatic promotion, and they've tailed off. The heads are down a bit. We've seen it where when we've been in the mix for the top 2 towards the end of the season, and you just drop off. Under Jack Ross, the 1-1 draws, we sort of tanked a bit. Whoever is on a downward spiral, usually you can capitalise on that and take advantage. But really, I think it's in this league especially, it's much of a muchness in terms of quality. So it's all about, whoever it is, when the time comes that's on the worst run, I would like it to be us who's playing them. But, I think we're almost in the position of beggars can't be choosers, aren't we? Just as long as we're in the playoffs, we've got a chance. And we got to the final in the first year we were here. We almost got to the final under Lee Johnson, and just didn't quite make it. We know we can get to Wembley, and then once you're there, it is just a game of football. It's 90 or 120 minutes. Anyone can win one game of football, but am I confident it'll be us? Yeah, am I confident it'll be us? Maybe not, but we live in hope, don't we?
Oh well, we try to, but being Sunderland, it's always at the back of your mind that just the typical Sunderland's always around the corner, isn't it? I mean, from being, so hopeful, a couple of months ago, thinking that automatics are the real option, and now we're looking at ourselves now thinking, gosh, it's going to be tight to get the playoffs. How much a season can change in about 4 or 5 weeks, isn't it? But that is typical Sunderland. We play well, up and down start, do well in the middle, and then tail off at the back. Just like James said in the thing there, that's just who we are, and that's until something changes with that, that's going to be the way it is, and we're going to be in League One for a couple of seasons, but hopefully not. This could be the season. We just don't know. I mean, so we'll move on to our last point now before we head off. Obviously, there was the Red and White Army meeting a couple of days ago. A couple of interesting points in there. It's a very long thing. Also, the Roker Report did a really, really good article on there. So check that out if you want a really in-depth thing about that. It's just, there are a couple of points in there that made me laugh. KLD, he apologized for unintentionally misleading the fans, and he said, I may have misjudged the sensitivity of the issue. So Alex, I'll come to you first. I mean, surely KLD knows what he's in for, being at Sunderland for however long he has been. How he hadn't seen that this, how he's misjudged this issue. I mean, what do you think? It just sounds a bit baffling to me.
Yeah, me as well. I mean, he must be a very, very naive young man if that's the case. I mean, from the second he walked in the door, he should have known what he was getting into. This is a massive club that has massive, massive demands and can't languish in League One. He knows that, and ultimately, he can say, he can apologise and make up whatever he wants to say. I mean, he's one of the shareholders at the football club. At the end of the day, he's going to try and mask things, isn't he? I think if anybody was expecting KLD to come out and be completely honest in that meeting and not give a political answer such as the ones you've just mentioned, it's disappointing, isn't it? If that's what you were expecting. I think ultimately, if on the playing side, if we don't get promoted via the playoffs, his decision making and his staff's decision making are 80-90% of the reason why. He has to be held accountable. I mean, Louis Dreyfus has done some fantastic things since he's been here. I like his approach. I believe in his approach, and I hope that he's in it for the long run and can build something with Sunderland. However, just because he isn't Stuart Donald or he isn't Charlie Methven or he isn't Juan Sartori doesn't mean that what he says should get a free pass. I think them answers that he gave us stock political answers, that if true, shows how naive he is as a young man, and bullshit, to put it bluntly. Doesn't wash with me.
No, I mean, it didn't wash with me very well. I think, reading then comments on there, I thought, this guy just, does he just think we're fools or something? How this whole situation has gone out as soon as it was released that Madrox are still well involved. It's just, pulling the wool over our eyes and sort of hoping that we just accept it and move on from it. But it's the absolute opposite. Everyone, at Sunderland, I would presume, want Madrox out, and that's just the way it is. I mean, they said they did a survey in 2021 saying that everyone that did it, 90% said that Madrox should sell, and there was only 3% that wanted Madrox to stay. So, I mean, if that's not a convincing figure, then I don't really know what is. I mean, Dom, what do you think, mate? What's this whole thing saying to you at the minute?
To be honest, I think I speak for a lot of people. I don't know what to believe anymore. I think it's got to the point where someone comes in, whoever they are, they'll come across very professional, well spoken, and it comes across as honest. And then some point down the line, it all comes out, shit hits the fan, stuff like that. And then us as fans get to a point of, well, with all due respect, you run our club, but like there should be some kind of mutual respect between the two. Like, I agree with the lads that they were just stock answers, and it just sounds like he doesn't want to say anything that'll put him further in trouble, or that'll, in case he says the wrong thing. I think with a club like Sunderland, or any club in this country really, you should know what you're getting yourself into before you go ahead, because like many people know, up and down the country, the football club to many people is the be all and end all. So if you're trying to work around it without people knowing willingly, it just comes across very shady. Personally, I like Kirill. I think out of the owners we've had recently, I think he's the one who comes across as the most likable, and don't know what it is about him, but the fact that it all came out that Madrox is heavily involved, I think we all just felt a little let down and a bit betrayed, because we were all under the impression that they were gone. There's rumours saying that he had to sign a confidentiality thing where he wasn't allowed to say it. Even then, I think it's just one of them things where you just wanted to think that it was all going to be over once the paper came through that he was the majority shareholder and stuff like that. You did want to think that it would all be over, but obviously it's just another crazy chapter in the story of our beloved football club.
A very confusing chapter as well, isn't it, Dom? I mean, it's just been like just unimaginable these past couple of months on the pitch and off the pitch. It's just like, some teams might not get that even in 2 seasons, and we had it in the space of 2 months. It's just, the life of a Sunderland fan. I mean, Johnny, on the Roker Report article, they gave sort of 4 points where they would think the club might be going in the summer, when KLD is going to be talking about this sort of ownership thing. So they said that the KLD and family will increase their share to 80%. It would either be Juan Sartori and KLD both increase their stakes. It would be a third party buys Donald's and Midfield shares, or the Supporters Trust will lead a fan consortium to it. So there's 4 kind of interesting ones there. I mean, I'll open up to everyone, but I'll go to Johnny first. I mean, out of them 4, sort of, we'll go for long term. I mean, just for now. I mean, where do you think you would like, or who do you think you would like out of them 4 options?
I think ideally it would be the fan involvement. I think, if you look at Germany, they've got the 50+1 model where every club, is required to have at least the minimum majority, the smallest majority you can have of fan ownership, so that there is no situation like you get in England where, I mean, look at Abramovich at Chelsea, where because he is the owner, when something happens to him, the club is now in some level of jeopardy. I mean, obviously that's very politically charged and very different, but I'd much prefer to see English football in general move away from the model we've got of kind of rich, billionaires and millionaires come in and kind of treat clubs as playthings for a while. Because really it's the fans who make the club what it is. Without us, absolute idiots turning up in freezing cold and, you know, horrible weather, watching Sunderland slump to 2 and 3-0 defeats to teams in League One. Yeah. There wouldn't be a club. I'm not confident that's what will happen. You know, unfortunately, we don't live in the utopian world that I would like to see, where billionaires don't own football clubs. But I think the problem with the options where it involves Kirill and Satori in any capacity increasing their shares is, like the lads have said, I mean, Satori's been involved with Madrox for a long time now. What does he even do? What's his role in the club? We don't know. He was very happy to pose for fans at Trafalgar Square a few years ago, but anytime tough questions turn up, he's back off to Uruguay running in presidential elections. You know, that's not who I want running the football club, unfortunately. And I think he's lost the benefit of the doubt for a lot of people, as a bare minimum. You know, Alex summed it up a bit quite well. You know, it was a lot of bullshit, but you know, even if you're a bit generous to him, because he is likable and he's come in and he has put some money in, even if you do still like him, this is kind of, he's had his chance now. He's had his first major mistake, and mistake might be a bit generous, in inadvertently misleading the fans. So I think, you know, I think if him and Satori stay, there's always that question of, well, are they telling the truth? You know, who's doing what behind the scenes? What's really happening? That accountability and transparency is just not there. And if it's a third party, you just run the risk of it being another chancer. Yeah. You know, the last few people we've had on in the club, Ellis Short at first, yeah, great, money coming in, promotion, happy days. Then he lost interest. Madrox have proven to be absolute charlatans. Kirill's now not exactly covering himself in glory, so is it better the devil you know? I don't know. As long as whoever it is that's the majority shareholder come the summer is prepared to put enough money in to get us out of this league, I'll be happy.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, sort of on that topic of Satori, they're saying that, you know, he's taking a back seat at the minute because he's, you know, got some political thing going on in Uruguay. You know, he's running for the presidential candidate, but when Sunderland get to the Premier League, he will be more involved. That's sort of, you know, that's where his money will come in and all of that. But, you know, it's all well and good saying when we get to the Premier League, but as it stands, some people could say, well, it's another season in League One. You know, so it's one of them things like, oh, it's all good, well, looking for the long term, but, you know, what's happening with the short term now? It could be 4 or 5 years before we get to the Championship. We just don't know. But, I mean, Alex, out of them 4 sort of options there, who would, you know, what would be your sort of favourable option out of them?
I mean, I like the idea of fan involvement on the board, you know, in the sense of, like, even if they just had Charlie Methven's 5%, you know, so there's that little bit of input, and the fans have a say. However, I'd like to see Louis Dreyfus bring his mother and that on board. Why not? Why not? They own a football club. They own Marseille. They're not, or did own Marseille. They know what it takes to run a football club. They have plenty of money, and I'm sure if he's as assured on his project as he says he is, KLD, I'm sure he can persuade his mother that, you know, the opportunity and the potential of Sunderland, should it get back to the Premier League, is a massive business opportunity. So why not? I mean, I just, to be honest with you, I think Louis Dreyfus has answered. Yes, he gave some stock answers like we mentioned. However, he's reiterated each time that regardless of the makeup of shares, I think he said in the Red and White Army meeting minute actually that he was happy to have some leeway on the percentage that he had personally. However, the only thing he wasn't willing to sort of delegate on was the control. And every time he's been asked, he's always said that he has the control of the football club, the running of the football club, day-to-day decisions. So I guess it just, he's answered that question now, and whether you believe him or not, you've got to make that decision for yourself. However, I just want rid of Donald and Methven. I just hate their faces. They're just a pair of turds that won't flush.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, I mean, Charlie's just got one of them faces you just want to, you know.
No.
Salmon
Anyway,
pants, man.
I'm not a aggressive person. I'm not going to say Alex, but, you know, we all know. I think, you know, so they're saying that it's, you know, 11.7 million. I mean, I think for some people that's probably quite a reasonable amount when you think of Sunderland, the club size and the fan base and everything, you know. But I think for me, I think James summed it up really well in the live chat of sort of my thoughts. Fan ownership is a great thing, but will never happen in the UK because there's too much greed in this country.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, it would be wonderful, you know, if we could do that, because at the end of the day, the football clubs are built on the fans and that's what keep them going. And, you know, with that involvement, it would be nice, but there's too much money in football nowadays, all thanks to Abramovich when he came into Chelsea. But anyway, we're going to get onto any politics here. So,
I mean, if they value the club at 11.7 million, then when they pay back, then if you adhere for the 20 million that they took out the club, that means that they would have to give the club away and pay somebody the other 10.7 million. So technically, the club should be given away for free.
Oh, I'll take it then. Go on. I mean, I'm skint like, so I kind of pay
Fans
the players.
React will take over.
that's what I'm saying. We're a Fans React consortium and we'll have it for free.
Sean
Send
can be
us a few.
CEO.
Send us a few super chats, everyone, and we can afford to pay Defoe for a couple of days.
All the money that you will send now will go towards purchasing a share in Sunderland, all right? So if that's not a thing to donate money to the channel, then I don't know what is.
We'll give Sean a statue outside the ground.
Hey.
That'll keep the crowds away, won't it?
Right, we'll wrap it up a little bit now. Just a quick fire one. Dom, crew tomorrow, score prediction and goal scorers.
You know what? I'm gonna be a happy clapper for once, and I'm gonna be confident, and I'm gonna say 3-0 to Sunderland. Fingers crossed, and I'm gonna say Defoe to get his first goal. Hopefully, I'll say Stewart, and let's go Jack Clark again.
Jack Clark. Well, I'll take that. Alex, come on. I know you can be positive. What do you think?
Do you know? I think we'll win 2-0. As for scorers, I think I'd mirror what Dom says. I think Defoe will get his first one tomorrow. And I had a dream last night, and don't ask me why. I had a dream last night. We were playing Crew, and Dennis Sirkin had had the home top on in long sleeves and a pair of Speedos and rocketed a volley in the top corner. So I'm gonna say that becomes a reality.
Especially the Speedos bit, yeah.
The Speedos, yeah.
If I was the psychologist, I'd love to try and digest that dream and all the going on in the brain there, Alex, for Dennis Sirkin to be wearing a long sleeve shirt and a pair of Speedos. But look, to be fair, no, on that sort of topic, I did have a dream before we played Wigan, and I thought, oh, you know, I think I scored the winner or something, and we won 2-0. And then I woke up and I thought, oh, I think we'll get a result today. But I didn't want to tweet anything just in case. I thought, if we get battered 4 or 5-0, thinking, oh, good dream and all of that. But anyway, digressing. Johnny.
I'm going to mirror the lads' positivity. I'm going to say 2-0 as well. And I also fancy Defoe to get his first goal. And since we've all said that, he's nailed on to getting injured after 2 minutes and not playing the rest of the season. I fancy Defoe and I fancy Clark to score the goals. I think it's going to be a tight one. I think it's going to be might flatter us a little bit. I think Neil will have us defensively sound. I think we'll score a couple of clinical chances that we'll create. And then we'll all leave and say, fantastic that, lads. Let's go and get promoted and then get beat off Rotherham.
Can I just say as well? I think the what the club have done for tomorrow's game in support of what's going on in Ukraine, wearing the away kit at home is going to be something special. And well done to the club for putting that on.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, Alex. Absolutely spot on. I think we're all in pretty much agreement that we stand with Ukraine and what's going on there. So
I think it's also a lovely touch to donate the proceeds to auctioning the signed shirts as well. I think that's a really nice touch. Shows it's more than just a gesture.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. One of the good things the club have done right in recent months. But
one of the few.
Anyway, I'll go for 2-0. I think 2-0. Go on. I'll go with Defoe getting off the mark.
Let's go.
Do you know what? I fancy Patrick Roberts, actually. I think he played well on Tuesday. He looked a bit of a bright spark. I think if he just gets that chance, a bit like Clark, once he gets that goal, it'll just fill him with confidence. And I think we'll see a very different side of Clark on Saturday if he starts as well. I think that goal did him the world of good. So let's hope anyway. Could be 3, could be 4.
When Patrick Roberts did about 8 kicky uppies on the edge of their box and lost the ball, I was fuming.
Oh, I'd have paid to be a fly on the wall there.
Oh, no.
That's the thing. Do you imagine what Alex Neil might have said to him in the dressing room? I bet. I don't think he would have liked that.
I bet there was a few choice words flying about there.
I'm sure there was. He's certainly not one to beat around the bush, Neil, is he? But anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there. Everyone on the live chat, thank you for tuning in this evening. Thanks for your company. Johnny, Alex and Dom, thank you for a great show, guys. Lots of things talked about, lot to digest, and hopefully we'll see a Sunderland win tomorrow.
Fingers crossed.
So everyone watching, have a good week in whatever you do, and we'll see you next Friday for another edition of Fans React Friday.